Hello, welcome back to my stream. I hope to enjoy with the chapters I'm going to read today. Hopefully I'll be able to read a lot, but let's see what happens. I'm going to read Forget My Husband, I'll Go Make My Own Money. Chapter 42. Fluffy, Part 7. Mokali's menacing face crumpled, making him look even more threatening. For now, the core ladies have given me all of his personal details. Aristine lowered her voice and drew closer to him. She didn't seem to have her guard up at all. She didn't look alarmed by his frightening face or afraid that he might stab her in the back. Zvinka's sly Sylvanian would be caught so easily by an undercover investigation. Should she be opening up so easily to a stranger just because he was Tarkan's subordinate and said he would help her? Or is it that she doesn't care if my lord finds about her secret meeting? But I don't know what he likes or what he is interested in. Why exactly do you need to know that? Mokali couldn't stand it and blurted out. Well, that... Aristine's eyes shifted. He wanted to give Liz the least information possible. To entice him? Mokali grabbed the back of his neck. What do you mean by that? His face turned red as he yelled. How can you put my lord aside and... I mean, his ability is different from Tarkan's. What? Are you saying the guy is more capable than my lord? I'm not saying he's better, but different. I think Tarkan is an excellent partner too. Don't tell me that sort of... Mokali's only remaining eye widened, like it was tearing apart. Does this mean his lord and the princess have progressed that fast? I know they're getting married in a few days, so there's nothing wrong with that. But... Mokali's face began to turn red. How can my lord and this dumb princess be... If he had believed that the only thing he would do for this small insignificant princess was feeding her own time. Aristine tilted her head. She didn't know why, but Mokali was very agitated. Apparently, he was the type who believed that his lord must be the best in the world. Aristine opened her mouth to calm him down. He's a blacksmith, you know. He's not a warrior like Tarkan, so of course, he's no stronger than Tarkan. A blacksmith? Yes, there are many great blacksmiths in Irigo. I need a great blacksmith like one of those. Aristine rubbed her forehead. I didn't want to say that I needed a blacksmith. But she has already said it, so she couldn't take it back. Aristine sighed and continued. Irigo has always been dealing with the Monarch best, so your steel industry is well developed. They had to keep improving their swords and making better ones than their predecessors to deal with the ever-evolving demonic beast. No other country can match the smelting and metallurgy capabilities of Irigo. Mokali, whose mind was running wild with agitation, listened to Aristine speak, with a somewhat confused look in his eyes. Why is she suddenly talking about this? Their excellent skills is the history and evidence of Irigo's fight with the demonic beast of the Great Plains. I thought you wouldn't know such things as a princess of Sylvanis. It turns out you do. He didn't really want to agree with the princess, but she was too right for him to ignore it. How can I not know? The difference is so huge. Indeed, even if one has eyes on their feet, you must acknowledge the knowledge of their blades. I heard you can cut the shell of a demonic beast with one strike. Ha! Just the shell? With aura you can even cut through bones. The only thing that withstands such damage is the sword of our Irigo people. Sure enough, it is amazing. Of course, but us Albanian bastards love to talk nonsense and call our sword barbaric. And that's coming from people who walk around carrying decorative swords. I know, Albanians also like the swords made in Irigo. They just don't like to admit it. Those people are the type to act lofty with their useless pride. That is exactly what I want to say. Igo. If those guys don't pump up the pride, Mokali, who had been running his mouth so far, shut his mouth. What am I doing right now? How could he be talking about swords excitedly with the princess who wants to put his lord aside and entice another man? No. It wasn't exciting at all. There's no way it was fun talking to a sly Sylvanian. It's just, the princess doesn't talk like a Sylvanian, so I could no connection at all. Mokali inwardly cleared his throat and focused his mind. Right. I have to deceive the princess to catch her secret meeting, so I'm just acting friendly. This was all a strategy. Even I'm scared of myself. Mokali was amazed by himself. Everyone saw him as a simple and slightly rash person. But today, all those words have been proven wrong. To think I can carry out such a scary plan. Perhaps even a crafty Albanian could not see through this great strategy because the princess was completely fooled. She was staring at the sword Mokali hang on his waist with sparkling eyes. In Irigo, a warrior could carry their sword anywhere, without special permission, unlike in Sylvanus. Oh, she has good eyes. My sword is definitely amazing. Mokali leaned his waist towards the princess for no real reason. He was definitely not excited. So Mokali, is your sword also a famous sword? Mr. Definitely not excited, Mokali got up and quickly drew his sword, as if he had been waiting for that question. Shin! A smooth tingle rang out as the glistening silver blade was revealed. It was about as tall as Aristine. The sword was well suited to Mokali, who was a giant even among the Argonians. What do you think? It's amazing, isn't it? He asked while swinging the sword lightly. The sound of the sword cutting through the air was steep, as if he wasn't just swinging a sword. Aristine's hair scattered all over thanks to the wind created. Oh no, Mokali did a double take. I shouldn't have done that. Even the princess won't be happy. He'd heard that it was barbaric and rude to show a blade to a lady. Moreover, Sylvanus was a country where only knights with a special permission could carry swords inside the palace. The fact that they were afraid of swords, which should be as close as a lover to them, would normally make him laugh and ridicule them as cowards. But for some reason, he wasn't in the mood to laugh at them right now. Even if the princess were to tremble in fear right now, he didn't want to laugh. The reason for that was, he had to get the princess' favor and deceive her after all. Mokali hurriedly hid the sword behind him. He began to speak, but didn't know what to say, so he trailed off. He had no intention of threatening or intimidating her just now. Yes, he came here to rebuke her, but still, that was really not his intention. He just wanted to show off his cool and beloved sword. The princess probably wouldn't want to talk about swords with him anymore. But right at that moment, Aristine spoke. That's the end of chapter 42. Chapter 43. Wow, it's so clean. Aristine approached with admiration, staring at the sword that was just as tall as her. It's like a mirror. The wavy patterns are so clear too. Rather than backing away in fright, she looked like she was about to thrust her nose into the sword. As Aristine carefully examined the blade, she even reached out her hand towards the sword. But before her hand reached it, he paused and glanced up at Mokali. May I touch it? Mokali didn't like other people touching his sword. Any warrior would agree with him. However, he nodded his head. I have no other choice if I want to win the princess' favor. He really, truly, completely had no other choice. Please, make sure you're ready. Thank you. Aristine smiled sweetly and touched the sword gently. The feeling of cold iron, it felt strange to the touch, giving her a little chill. Amazing. I'm just touching it, but it feels like it's going to cut me. It does cut the skin, even if you don't apply any force. Macaulay said boastfully. The polishing technique on this is outstanding. Demonic beasts have such hard shells, so it needs this much sharpness. Aristine tilted her head and mumbled. Then she lifted her hat from the sword and looked straight at Macaulay. Macaulay flinched. Because she was looking at his sword, Aristine was right in front of him. He suddenly wanted to cover the left side of his face, and he didn't want Aristine to see his disgusting scar in full detail and back away. However, Aristine did not back away, nor avert her gaze. She just looked at him like she usually did while dealing with people, as if he were nothing. He couldn't see any repulsion or fear on that small face. How do you manage the rust? And she simply asked a question, just like that. It was a serious and prudent question. She didn't care about his terrifying and abhorrent scar. What she cared about was the sword. The sword Macaulay was proud of. You mean how I protect it from rusting? Macaulay felt his throat clogging up. Management of rust, huh? He never thought he would be asked this kind of question by someone that was not even a warrior. She seems very interested in swords. It didn't sound like she was asking such questions just to be in his good grades. Well, I have to clean it so it doesn't rust. I do that every morning and evening. As expected, it requires a lot of work. This guy is precious, so I have to treat him just as much. He's referring to the sword. Macaulay said as he flicked a finger against the sword. I take care of this guy carefully every day, and he responds amazingly in return. Although it's huge, it has quite elasticity. That's because the master who made this sword treated different parts with different heat. When you do that, the hardness will be different for each part. For this, the hardness is related to the carbon, and the scientific side was something Aristine had no knowledge about. Aristine listened to him talk while taking a guess. It was fascinating that Macaulay, who was a consumer and no manufacturer, was talking about such difficult principles. Even if Sylvanus where studies were developed, the scientific field was treated as a high-level area of the study. He must really like swords. Macaulay, who was bragging about his beloved sword, belatedly came to his senses as if a dam had burst. Like someone threw a bucket of water on him. Even his fellow warriors hated this kind of talk. The people who liked to dig into such detailed principles were no warriors, but weak-kneed, naive academics sitting behind a desk. That's why I usually don't talk to people about this. Plus, acting like this didn't suit his huge frame. While feeling awkward inside, he tried to study Aristine's complexion, but she nodded seriously. Thanks for telling me. I've learned a lot. Then I'm glad. Macaulay secretly looked away. When the conversation came to a brief pause, Macaulay felt a little awkward for some reason. He was curious about what the princess was doing, but somehow he found it hard to look back at her. Inwardly, he began to recite the steps of sharpening a sword. If she didn't say anything by the third step, he figured he would say something. Not that he really wanted to continue his conversation with the princess. This was only just a strategy to get information. As Macaulay went over the first step in his head, he couldn't bear it and thought to himself, should I just say something at the second step? The moment he decided that and turned to look at Steen, "Ach!" Aristine suddenly cried out. Macaulay was startled and his eyes went wide. He unconsciously strengthened his grip on his sword. Macaulay's huge frame blocked Aristine like a solid wall. His sharp eyes alertly scanned the room back and forth. However, he didn't see anything that could seem dangerous. What is it? Macaulay raised a brow in doubt, and just then, "The tea has gotten cold." He heard a small voice mumble below his chest. "Tea?" He looked down and saw the princess with despair written all over her face, like the wall had been destroyed. with a teacup tightly clenched in her hand. Strawberry cream tea. I really wanted to taste it. He couldn't have looked more depressed. Macaulay's mouth opened a few times before shutting close. He felt absurd, speechless, and somehow a little angry. But he also felt like laughing because he looked so dejected. I guess I was too focusing on listening and forgot this important thing. Aristine placed the teacup back onto the table, but her gaze still lingered on the rose-colored tea, let alone forget about it. Her eyes were practically dripping with regret. Aristine smacked her lips lamentfully when she looked at Macaulay and shrugged. But that's because the conversation with Macaulay was very interesting, and that's good enough. She added with a bright smile. Macaulay momentarily stared into her eyes. Is it just the tea? Can she ask them to serve it again? Such a thought flashed through his mind. Aristine had more than enough right to do so, but the fact that she didn't consider calling back the maids despite that. Is it because of me? I remember how the maids looked at him like he was a bag with 20 legs. Naturally, Macaulay didn't want to see them a second time. Macaulay put his sword into his sheath. After he left, Aristine would probably call her maids and ask them to bring the tea that she wanted so badly. No, she definitely would. However, how about you visit our house sometime? We have that kind of tea in my house too. Macaulay faked a cough for no particular reason. This was also to keep a close eye on the princess. Wow, really? Aristine was delighted. Being invited to someone's house, that was something she could never even imagine as someone who had lived locked up and alone. Then, I'll bring some scones. After speaking, Aristine frowned. I can take them, right? I heard it's not polite to go empty-handed when someone invites you, so I should be able to ask for that much. Even if she had formed an alliance with Archon, it wasn't good to spend too much of his assets, which is why she only ate the food and refreshments that were given to her. Although the quantity has increased lately, so I'm happy. Especially since she always had tea time when Tarkan came, and she liked the fact that she never touched his dessert. The scones. The scones here are really good. It's delicious even when it's cold. Try it. Macaulay looked at the scones on the table with a skepticism in his eyes. I'm sure, my lord, there was a meeting he didn't attend due to outside affairs, and he heard that at the meeting Darkan ordered them to find a pâtissier. More precisely, a pâtissier good at baking scones. Everyone said he might be trying to develop new battle rations or something. But don't tell me. The thought suddenly entered his mind, but Macaulay quickly shook his head. No way, it can't be. Definitely no. After all, he had been serving beside his lord for so many years. That was definitely not it. They'll bring this concern as our new battle rations, right? They must be using the princess as a test subject, of course. Macaulay thought to himself in that manner and took the scone Aristine offered him. It was delicious. That's the end of chapter 43. Chapter 44. Who asked about the lovey-dovey story between the two of you? How do you feel, princess? I'm over here excited and flustered by all of this. The Irigo court ladies dressed Aristine up while chatting. Then Aristine spoke with a faint expression. I left Sylvanus with the intention of getting married, more than a month ago anyway. I can't claim it feels exciting after all this time. Aristine's indifferent reply stimulated the court ladies, and they began to chatter rapidly. It should be exciting. Today is your wedding day. Even so, today should feel different, especially after wearing the wedding dress. Doesn't your hair flutter just by putting it on? I've already tried the dress on before, though. You have worn it a few times for fitting. The dress she brought from Sylvanus had gotten worn out, so it couldn't be worn again, so they had to tailor a new dress for her. Wearing it then and wearing it on your wedding day are totally different things. I agree, they're not the same at all. Is that so? Aristine mumbled, looking at her reflection in the mirror. The wedding dress was made using Sylvanus silk in the style of a traditional Aragonian wedding dress. The dress that Aristine wore to the official audience with the king that day became the inspiration, because it was the perfect dress for a wedding that signified the harmony between both countries. As if it was a royal wedding, it was naturally the talk of the town. The bouquets, decorations, wedding gifts, scale, planning, invited guests, etc. Among those, the thing that received the most attention was the dress worn by the bride. The fact that the wedding dress combined the culture of the two countries and moved them together, it would become a huge symbol. And as the person wearing the dress, it will be branded in people's minds as a symbol of peace. Politics was all about image. It was a very important action to imprint a powerful image in people's subconscious. Plus, there's a story behind this. After all, this was Aristine's idea, and it would be quite interesting for people to learn that she was ridiculed when it first appeared. This should be quite useful to hold a public opinion in the fight for the throne. Since she had decided to help Tarkan fight for the throne as a business partner on equal footing, she had to work hard. I want to make Tarkan king as soon as possible and regain my freedom. Well, before that, she had to save up a lot of money first. Money that will allow me to play and live however I want for the rest of my life. As Aristine studied the dress, the court ladies smiled contentedly. They felt proud because the princess, who had been indifferent, looked interested. I knew it. This is how a new bride should look. I wonder how nervous she is. Even my heart is racing for no reason. I could have never imagined that Aristine was thinking about political opinions, battle for the throne, and even divorce. Sometimes it was better not to know anything. While the court ladies continued their work, Aristine looked at the side of the mirror, where the Sylvanus maids were reflected. Considering what day it was, the maids didn't make any trouble and remained quiet today. If the marriage itself failed, Sylvanus, who wanted to buy time, would be in trouble. Nevertheless, there was one reason why they made Aristine dirty despite that and mock Irigo. Because Irigo is more desperate for the peace agreement than them. Irigo had to end the war quickly and secure a peace agreement because he didn't know when the demonic beasts might attack. So although they were aiming for the war, they wanted peace among Sylvanus. My father is truly a cruel and huge coward. He was the one who invaded first, but when they were pushed back in the war, he proposed a peace treaty and sent his daughter as well. Despite that, it was ridiculous that he was already thinking of stabbing them in the back, and even more cowardly, that in the middle of the situation, he was using other party circumstances to ridicule them. When you think of it like that, this maids might be better than the emperor. Just as she thought that, Rosaline and the other maids began to fight. Wait, I thought they were being cautious so that this marriage doesn't fail. The reason they didn't trouble Aristine was because they were too busy growling at each other. They seemed more annoyed by Rosaline, who was suddenly acting like Aristine's handmaid, mouthpiece, and retorting to every single thing they said. Aristine watched them with interest. This is a long dress obsession for the wedding that was just starting to get boring. Since there was no spectacle to see, of course, they was going to watch and everyone would know We was to watch a fight. Although Rosalind had the toughest personality, the other mates were strong. In numbers, and they were evenly matched. It was not really exciting. Were they going to grab her hair? And so, core ladies were excited for their master's marriage, while Aristine was excited to watch the fight, and like that, the dressing up came to an end. Wow, it was hard to find words to say when you were in awe. The core ladies forgot what they wanted to say and stared blankly at Aristine. Though thoughts like she's pretty or she's beautiful weren't entertaining their mind, they used to stare at Aristine, vacantly like they were floating. Sure enough, watching pretty things made one forget the passage of time. Is it all done? At Aristine's words, the core ladies flinched, regained their senses, and hurriedly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. Princess, you're really, really beautiful. I think beautiful alone does not cut it. Oh my goodness. It is really an honor to dress you up, Princess. If this were not an Oregonian wedding dress, the maids from her homeland would have been the ones to dress the princess up. Hearing the sounds of admiration from the core ladies, the maids who were fighting frowned. How pretty can she be? Come on. Seriously, I don't know why they're making so much noise. I mean, the princess looks are pretty common in our country. As expected, Oregonians are. Suddenly the maids who were speaking shut their mouths. That's the end of chapter 44. Chapter 45. Chapter 45. Who asked about the lovey-dovey story between the two of you? The sudden silence was because Aristine had spun around at the request of the core ladies. Her long and voluminous hair fluttered in the air, following her movements. At normal times her silver hair glistened brightly, as though it was carefully combed with flower oil, but now it looked like finely crushed diamonds were scattered all over her hair. Her peculiar hair, color akin to wet lilac flowers, seemed even more vivid. The lower part hung down, and the upper part was braided into several parts and decorated with a licentious wreath mixed with peonies and roses. It was such a gorgeous wreath that it seemed like it would be too much. But once it was placed on Aristine's head, it didn't look over the top at all. It was only fulfilling its duty to make the bride shine. It was at this moment that they clearly realized what it meant to be beautiful enough to make even flowers bow their heads in shame. Her purple eyes were deep and clear, and her colored lips looked soft and smooth. Her nose was small but sharp, and her cheeks overflowing with life. Her skin had a soft glow without the slightest flaw. The silk flowed smoothly across her perfectly proportioned limbs. The ornaments worn over it seemed to draw in light, and the hanging white gold chain glistened as it changed angles, with Aristine's at every move. Her appearance was like something out of a fairy tale, like a fairy tale or a goddess. The maids who were ready to ridicule the new bride, dressed up in barbarian attire, were stupefied. Their eyes shook and widened like it was going to rip apart. Their faces were full of shock. It was only after Aristine span again, like the core ladies asked, that they caught their breaths. Well, I guess it's just enough to undermine the prestige of our great Sylvanus empire. Yes, it's just enough. Barely enough to not be an embarrassment. The maids raised their noses, as if it were nothing special, but the fact that they were fighting a few moments ago had completely left their minds. They famed themselves for no reason and feigned indifference. While the court ladies were snorting out their dress for the last time, the maids were peeking at Aristine through the edge of their fan. Clothes are like wings, right? That's why. My gosh, look at that jewel. It's huge and clear and so shiny. How much is one of that? I think I can buy a nice dress with just one of the jewels on that chain. The maids whispered to each other, their eyes filled with jealousy and envy. The princess had to be more shabby and humbler than them. Everything that went to her had to come to them, just like it was in the imperial palace. They imagined themselves sweeping through the social circles with glamorous and extravagant clothes, with Tarkan's manly arm wrapped around their slender waist. That scene was drawn in the minds of the maids like a dream. His Highness Tarkan paid for all of that, right? As expected of His Highness Tarkan. As Sylvanus' standards, Tarkan was not a good man at all. Forget that. The fact that he didn't know how to treat a lady respectfully. He even had the nerve to carelessly break into a lady's room. He was a man with a lot of flaws. However, even that was attractive. In front of him, the men of Sylvanus looked like little boys instead of men. He had no intense gaze that seemed to pierce through, features that looked sculpted, and a well-defined jawline, and to add to that, a strong body that looked firmly built. That alone made him a man that was very desired. However, he was perfectly equipped with the three holy grails: ability, status, and wealth. Seeing Aristine adorned in beautiful jewels made the maids more anxious. Such a man deserves more than this lowly princess. Better than that crazy illiterate princess. Someone elegant, refined, and noble, like me. He should be holding my hand from the side. The maids chew on their lips. Of course, the other ladies had no interest in what the maids were thinking. Just know His Highness Tarkan will be shocked when he sees the princess. I want people to see the princess already. I can't wait to see their reaction. His Highness Tarkan will look even more charming today, won't he? His wedding will definitely go down in history. After all, the two of them are so beautiful. Despite the chattering of the court ladies, Aristine merely shrugged. The fact that this arranged marriage ends hundreds of years of hostility is likely more historically relevant. In any case, he was glad that the court ladies were happy with the result of the craftsmanship, after spending so much time and sweat on it. Sure enough, they are very passionate about their work. I'd love to help them. They wanted to make a lot of money and hire a bunch of passionate employees. Wait. Right, we prepared the fluffy thing for you. Oh yes, it's very fluffy. It can withstand my impact. And it's a little narrow too. The court ladies lower their voices and whisper. I still didn't get what that was so good about that, but they were laughing strangely and had a strange look in their eyes. I see. Good job. Either way, Aristine praised them for remembering what she paid and paying attention to it. As expected, they're still competent people. I think they didn't forget something she only said once. A desire to scar them continued to rise. Well then, here we go now, princess. The court ladies enthusiastically opened the door. It was time to get on the carriage and head to the ceremonial hall. That's the end of chapter 45. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and that'll be everything for today. But forget my husband. I'll go make money. Bye.